The Man Whore podcast is sponsored by Alt Playground. APG is more than just a place to find couples to swap with. Alt Playground is a lifestyle community for all non-monogamous and sexually adventurous people to connect and share. And you know I started a profile. Join me over at altplayground.net. That's altplayground.net. You always need new underwear, and you always love a good deal. Topic Wear is a luxurious undergarment brand that's partnered up with both myself and NBA star Serge Ibaka to leave your naughty parts soft and comfortable during this indefinite sexual off-season. Get 20% off your next order of undies with promo code MANWHORE at topicwear.com. That's code MANWHORE at topikwear.com. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
What's up, fuck puppets? This is Billy Procida, and you're listening to the Man Whore Podcast. To those of you new to the show, I promise that is the broiest I get. Fuck puppets. That's really all I had. That's all I could come up with. What up, everybody? How you doing? Thank you to all y'all who sent me birthday wishes over the weekend for the big 3-1. It was much appreciated. Weird time to have a birthday. But hey, you know, it was actually one of the better birthdays in recent memory. I spent it at my mom's place in Jersey, not with Megan, because Megan has been protesting. She started protesting before the birthday, and I was going to leave my mom's house a few days after my birthday. But my mom didn't really want to be exposed to the protests via Megan, and I didn't want to rob my mom, you know, my mother, who's all alone in that house. I didn't want to deprive her of a few extra days with her son and another birthday. So it was just a one-on-one birthday celebration. Started my morning off with my favorite breakfast as a kid, a 2 Eggo waffles with peanut butter and syrup. That was my staple breakfast. Just very beige on top of beige with with some brown dripping all over it. That's my jam. Had some FaceTimes with my sisters. Obviously, a little FaceTime with Megan. Mom made me a steak dinner, and we talked about the past. I asked questions about me growing up, and cried a bunch. It was great. I recommend this for anyone on their birthday. If you have access to the person who birthed you, I highly recommend asking every year. Ask for a story about the day you were born. But don't ask for like the story. Just like ask for a story. Like tell me something about that day. Because then every year, I promise you're going to get like new information from a story you've heard before. Or you'll get a whole other story about a different part of the day. Or from someone else's perspective. Played a little backgammon. Tried to watch a movie. My mom taught me how to roll a joint. It was a good birthday. Good birthday. Before we get to this week's guest, Jelena Aleksic, I want to introduce y'all to Nina, the owner and operator of Feel More, a sex toy shop out in the Bay Area. I believe they operate shops in Oakland and Berkeley. Nina and I recorded an awesome bonus episode over the digitals last week. It was great. We got into, how they're just this hustler who grew up in Las Vegas and sold dildos out of their car, and then eventually would come to own their own small business brick and mortar store. Really cool story. But right now, Nina and I want to talk to y'all a little bit about sex toy shops and the adult industry under lockdown, under quarantine. Let's go have a little chat. All right, I'm here right now with Nina, the owner and operator of Feel More, a sex toy shop out in the Bay Area in Oakland in downtown Berkeley. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got that right.
But I wanted to ask you about, so you own and operate a small business, a sex toy shop, and COVID-19's happening. We have lockdowns going on. There's some small business loan stuff going on. People are adapting their businesses, but like, how's Feel More holding up right now?
Uh, I'm tired as hell. I think every business owner in America right now has to be tired. Employees and workers have to be tired. Just the news cycle and the information and the changing chairs and musical chairs that's happening with COVID. But personally, I think I was built for this moment. Unfortunately, you don't want to always stay in this mode. You know what I mean? Like it's like a video game. You don't always want to go to the bonus round. You don't want to play at the bonus round level all the time. You know what I mean? That's like a bonus. But I'm doing well. The store is doing well. We're keeping it clean. Still washing the windows. Delivering things and making sure people got their goods.
Yeah. So how are you? How have you been adapting?
I did not want to give away shit. Like, honestly, I think right now, I know there's a lot of, when you're competing with Amazon, you're competing with same day and also price. Well, a lot of that same day wasn't really working because they were sending out essential items first. And they were also backstock on a lot of sex toys, so people couldn't get shit. So it worked in our favor. So yeah, no small business should be given a discount right now. Big businesses definitely will be, but small businesses can't really afford that. So I didn't want to set that tone just to like, 25% off, because it's still based on the number of people that find you. So they're finding you for a reason, not for the discount, but for the product. So I wanted to make sure that we're consistent on the product and the customer service, relaying our customer service through technology, which is very difficult. So we wanted to make sure that if you were in Oakland and you ordered an item, or in Berkeley, I delivered it the same day. Like, you didn't know that. I was just like, hey, since people are home, freeways are freer right now. It was like I jumped in my car and I delivered it, and people really loved it. So, I had fun with it because I wanted to let them know who they were shopping with. Also, see the city, like to see the city like I've never seen it before in places was just a beautiful thing.
And one of the major storylines that's been going on, in the economy was the whole small business loan, PPP program, and it was meant for businesses that were like yours, and then these big businesses got the money. Not only are you dealing with that disparity between small business and big business, but you're also an adult business, which we
Mm-hmm.
know doesn't get treated the same as everyone else. So, how have you and other sex toy shops been running into a very particular, unique snafu?
No, I think with PPP or idle, some people out there are getting idle, and it's just the luck of the draw.
Hmm.
From honestly, it's just the luck of the draw. You don't know systematically, is the system looking at you, or are people looking at you, or what happens, so are they running your business type? You have no idea. You're just like very grateful if you get something. And I know a lot of businesses out there got something, whatever that got something means. But, it's just financially difficult for adult businesses always. And what I learned, one of the biggest lessons I learned was I needed more cash on hand than I ever thought. Because in the business, in the beginning, you're always planning your business, and you're preparing your financials, and you're saying, okay, well, how much money do I need for the first month, that second month? Customers start coming, but you never really plan for when customers don't come at all. Like, they're
Yeah.
in lockdown. Like, this is really, really a good time and a not good time. Because it's a good time because I see a lot of businesses actually changing their models to what they really should have been in the beginning. I think business owners, we've gotten lazy as well, and not wanting to do the small things, continue to innovate our business. And that's what I mean by the small things. And also keeping our businesses lean, where you're not hiring more people than you need, so that at a point of firing, you don't have to fire what you don't need. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
everybody should still be there with a job if you do it right. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't fire anybody. You know what I mean? Like, there was no reason to fire anybody. We had stuff to do. People elected not to come in, and just people like move cities and those kind of things. But it I don't think you had to, if you were doing like your social media, really using your technology, honing your craft on your food and things like that, I think people would still fuck with you. And I'm seeing that with our business, people still really want to fuck with us.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning in the bonus episode you're in like a group with like other small businesses. Are you like do you talk to other independently owned sex toy shops in other parts of the country? Do y'all have a group chat about like what you're doing in, Minneapolis versus here versus Austin or anything like that?
Yeah, we have a chat. We have a chat, the group chat set up for like a group thread, not a chat,
Mm-hmm.
set up with many stores around the country. But again, those same issues don't really work for me. So I had to really listen to that, but be active over in the restaurant community, because right now, I think for small businesses, restaurant and bars are taking are really fueling the economy right now. So I would want to be around those guys to hear about the information with the changes that the cities are immediately making to make sure that they get in bit, keep the city stay in business. You know what I mean? Like those revenues are really important to the city. Like what our city is doing right now for restaurants, they're going to allow them to operate on the sidewalk. ABC, which is alcohol, tobacco, they actually allow businesses to do to-go liquor in the state of California, where they didn't do that before. So Alameda County. So people are doing exactly, and I say people, organizations are doing exactly what they need to do to operate and to get tax revenues, and they're changing the game for businesses in the way that they should have been changed all along.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's something I've been very curious about in since shutdown and knowing that sex toy shops are going to go to online only for a while. Is there a particular sex toy that spiked in an unusual fashion when quarantine was going down?
Oh yeah. I gotta share it with you, but this one is still jumping off for us right now. It's called the Fantasy for Her. Let me get it. Hold on. It is a freaking suction product. Yeah, I'm on a page right now, but it's called Fantasy for Her Ultimate Fantasy. And it's a dildo insertable on one end and suction and tongue on the other end. Like people have
Stop
gone
it.
freaking crazy for this product. I mean, when I mean crazy, I mean crazy. They have gone bananas. Like, even if we brought in this product to the store, we were at the point of selling it where we kept selling out. So I stopped bringing it in to ship it ourselves. It was just better to ship it from the distributor to the consumer and not to us and to the consumer, because I needed to have at least 60 of these units, and they're over $100.
Wow. That sounds like the perfect mixture of toys, because like recently it seems like suction toys have been like all the rage. The same way that like the Hitachi was all the like had its specific window popping off, and now it seems like, oh, that sounds like a nice combination of toys. That sounds like everyone who didn't have like a COVID partner to play with was just like, well, this will be my person for the next 3 to 18 months.
Say that again for me.
Oh, it just sounds like that's the type of toy where like every person who's single was just like, well, this is going to be my partner for the next 3 to 18 months until there's a vaccine.
Yeah, that too. And just, people just wanted it because, what's happening right now with social media is social media is driving the sales of a lot of products just because people are creating their own content. It's like, back in the day, remember, it used to be bloggers. You'd have to go to their blog site, their website, and figure out what was going on. Now the internet just creates a video and then everybody shares it. So Facebook in itself, or Instagram, or Twitter, have become their own blog in a sense, where people are just almost Reddit, like behavior, and just going at it and talking about the product, and it's funny, the commentary, it's just taking a life of its own. But that product, people are like, when, say, for example, somebody goes on Twitter and posts the product and they're like, where can I get that? Or, it's a product, I know it's sold out. I'll post links. I'll post like 300-400 links to a product that's similar to that product and jump into the comments to get attention, to get traffic to my website. That's what I do.
Yeah, you hustle hard on the social media. Like I've been watching for the last like year or so. I fucking love it. I think you guys have a great Instagram over there, and you know you'll hopefully send me a link for that fancy for her toy, and I'll put that in the show notes of this episode. So everyone who's like, well, I need to have it too. If everyone else has it, y'all can go get it over at Feel More Adult. But folks, follow Nina and the shop on Instagram. I think it's at Feel More Adult, right?
Yes, it is.
And where can people go to shop some sex toys at your independently owned, feminist-owned sex toy shop?
Feelmore510.com. That's FEELMORE510.com.
And when all these lockdowns are lifted, if you're in the Bay Area, go check them out. I know next time I'm out there, I will certainly be by to say hello and maybe pick some things up.
Yes.
Well, Nina, thank you so much for chatting with us. And why don't you say goodbye to everybody one last time?
Bye, everybody. That was lame. Bye, bitches.
Again, go check out Feel More. Order yourself something fun, something that buzzes, something that tickles, something that holds a partner down. And if you want to hear my full bonus episode with Nina, it's coming out tomorrow exclusively on Patreon for all of my $5 and up members. So if you want to get access to that bonus episode, as well as over 100 others, head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Speaking of Patreon, let's do a little quick fan whore appreciation moment. Okay. This is the part of the podcast where I have to give a few shout outs to members of my fan whore community on Patreon. I spent the opening moments of my 31st birthday with my patrons. So right now I want to give a shout out to Richard Bolton. Richard Bolton sounds like an 80s movie star, man. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for supporting the show. I want to give a shout out to Endo. Let's vote out our mutually dumb leaders with shitty hair come this year or whenever Boris Johnson's up for re-election. I'm not really sure. Maybe you'll tell me on our next phone call we're going to have to do. Thanks for supporting the pod. A big old shout out and thank you to Raise Hell. That's what she goes by, Raise Hell. Oh, she raises hell with some fire nudes in the Peep Show. Lady, we're all very happy you've been coming out of your shell with us. Thanks for sharing. And a big old thank you to Paige? I don't think that this is my ex-girlfriend, but, whomever you are, thank you for supporting the podcast with your doll hairs. Maybe shoot me an email and reassure me that, you're not my actual ex. And you too can become a member today for as little as $2. You can join our private discussion groups in the Champagne Room and the Peep Show and access a whole bunch of other goodies. So one last time, become a member today. Support the podcast that you love. Join up at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Okay, so folks, I know at the very, very end of last week's episode, for all y'all psychos who, like me, also listen until that time counter says 000. I said that Franklin Vo is going to be the guest this week. That we'd be doing a two-parter, and just you know what? It's not that most happy-go-lucky episode. It's definitely me having a difficult conversation. And although I'm very excited to put that episode out, we're in some divisive times. So I would really like to be putting some happier content out there. And I am in the process of scheduling new episode recordings with people in New York City who are comfortable meeting, face-to-face and doing an interview. Part of the comfort level of that has got to be the fact that, we're all a lot of us are at protests surrounded by thousands and thousands of people. So I think doing podcasts, exposing yourself to one other person ain't the end of the world. In the meantime, while temperatures simmer, I'm going to be re-releasing a few of my free bonus episodes from Patreon. They are like the same length of what a normal podcast is that I do on here, except I put them only on Patreon, but they were free. And because I get to see some of the numbers of it, pretty much only my patrons listen to it. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be re-releasing these free bonus episodes, but here on the main feed with Andrea Allen, with Nina Hartley. Some of y'all might say I robbed you of a Nina Hartley episode. I would say you were too lazy to go to Patreon and listen to that for free, but lucky for you, I'm putting it out here conveniently. And this week, folks, we're going to be hearing my 7th grade crush, Yelena Alexic, who is an artist, photographer here in New York City. It was a really interesting reconnection because I haven't seen this woman since we were 13 years old. I have not seen her in person since 2003. So it's like 16 years. That's what you're about to hear, this reconnection. Yelena also runs a great art project called The Confetti Project, which you'll hear about. You should definitely go check out. She's a great follow on the Instagram. Let's go hear me reconnect with my 7th grade crush. What a life. I get to go dig up that kind of history for a living. What a world. You know, one of the things I asked for my birthday that, I was putting out on all the social media, telling my friends and family, one of the things I asked for was for folks to pay for a piece of porn. Yes, I said, hey, pay for a little porn today. That's all I asked of people. And if they didn't want to pay for a little porn, I said, sign up for a free trial at hotmovies.com and use my promo code MANWHORE to get some bonus minutes. And you could give me that birthday gift too, because hotmovies.com has been supporting the Man Whore podcast for over 2 years. And the reason I've been working with this company for so long is because I truly believe that is both an ethical and affordable way to pay for some of your porn. It's a pay-per-minute porn site, so you buy a bulk of minutes, and then you watch as much or as little of a movie as you want to. HotMovies.com offers licensed content from all of your favorite porn stars, all your favorite studios, with all your favorite kinks and fetishes. They've got kinky porn, they've got gay porn, they've got trans porn, they've got it all. I highly recommend the free trial, but if you use my promo code MANWHORE, you'll get 20 minutes on top of any package you sign up for. Again, go to hotmovies.com, use promo code MANWHORE. I want to tell you a quick little story about a time I was on one of these little hookup apps, and I had a lady who just instantly said she wanted to put her penis in my mouth. I just needed to go all the way on out to this neighborhood, like by Coney Island. Okay. And so I and I said beforehand, I was like, I'm not going to, because I can sense these things. I have like an 8th sense about it. The 8th sense, that's like the dick sense. The 6th sense is ESP. 8th sense is the dick sense. And I thought, this feels too good to be true. And so I said, you're not going to ask for money when I show up, right? And she's like, no, I don't need your money. I'm like, okay. I take a $40 Uber all the way out, like an hour away from my place in Bushwick. I get there, say, hey, I'm here. Where, what do I buzz up to? And she said, okay, honey, now I just need you to go across to the CVS and get me two $50 iTunes gift cards, and then I'll touch all the things you want to. Ooh, it's a scam. No. You know that feeling. It's the same feeling like when some hot chick on the internet slides into your DMs on Instagram. She's like, hey, I think you're really cute. I like what you're doing with your hair. I'd really like to fuck you if you just want to click over here. And then you click over here, and here was really just, a cam site because she was a bot the whole time. And I wouldn't have had to put up with something like that at altplayground.net. Yeah, I slipped it in there. APG, the lifestyle site dedicated to helping you find your next adventure. And you may be thinking, Billy, what makes Alt Playground so much different? I'm already on a lifestyle site. Why do I gotta be on this one? APG is streamlined, easy to navigate, and has a nice, clean interface. And I love a clean interface. I have a profile at APG. The interface is so clean, I could eat food off of it. I'd eat pussy off this interface. It's that clean. And again, unlike the free sites, you don't have to worry about the bots and the fakes. You're not going to be taking no Uber all the way out to Brighton Beach only to find out that, it was a scam the whole time, because APG is a pay-to-play website. They'll take care of making sure everybody's real so you can focus on real connections with real people. Go sign up today at altplayground.net. That's altplayground.net. Now let's get to the show.
No, it just blows my mind that someone wouldn't want to take an opportunity to clear the air with someone or be vulnerable or be super open. So for me, when you reached out to be on your podcast, I was I was very intrigued. For sure, even though I don't know what we would talk about.
Well, I thought...
Tell me why.
Tell you why. Yeah. Well, it was... when we're using your real name, right?
Sure.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk to, one of my, big grade school crushes.
Yeah.
On, a scale of, what are you talking about to that haunts me every day is, your memory of that whole time period of just being in grade school like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because, oh man, that time. I did this workshop with these 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds in California. And I was we were going around the circle talking about what we celebrate, right? This central question about all my work. And I honestly couldn't tell if they were just assholes or after each person went, I was wow, they're so nervous. They don't know other people. They're going out in a circle. They're being asked this inquisitive question, and I was wow, no amount of money I would take to go back to that time. So honestly, I don't remember a lot from back then. Even high school, I really block out I'm so driven to the present and the future and I think a lot of people do this, different self-defense mechanism, cognitive patterns, all of that, where I don't really remember a lot from back then.
That's wild. Okay.
But I do remember.
Oh gosh, here we go.
The one thing I do remember was you would call my house phone. Again, this was back in the day when we had house phones. And just
using the PTA directory because that's how we had to look up phone numbers.
Right. And mine was always on the top because my last name started with an A. Yeah. And just a little context, I grew up in a really strict household. Both my parents were Eastern European immigrants. All they cared about was me being good in school. That was number one, and being close to my siblings. And I wasn't allowed to date until after high school.
When high school was over?
Yes. So, which I kind of abided by, but really you can't, a relationship can't be serious when you have to conceal it, from your family and your parents. So, so anyway, that's the context. And then here you are in, I think it was 6th grade.
Just a little close. There you go.
I think it was 6th grade. I believe so.
6th, 7th grade. Yeah.
And you're calling the house phone. I vaguely remember poetry or something that you're saying, but that's all I remember. And then my dad finally picking up and just intimidating the fuck out of you. Here was his daughter who literally, has 6 more years to go in terms of when she's allowed to date and even, explore that part of herself. And here you are
nervously calling, by the way, not with the swagger that some of the other boys probably would have called with.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a lot of mumbling. I do not remember that interaction. And I remember certain weird...
Was my dad, you mean?
I do not remember it in the slightest.
I don't remember what he said, but I think he was just super, super firm, very Papa Bear, and was stop calling the house or I will, I don't even think he said call the police, but he basically created a threat for you not to ever call again. Yeah. So yeah. What do you remember?
I remember writing poetry, and it's so funny because last night I recorded with this comedian Chris Calogero, who he's very similar, and so we talked about the grand sweeping gestures and the things of what we think we're supposed to do to show you're interested from movies and everything. So we thought oh yeah, you write poetry and you do some sort of big thing and you try to express, you hold the boombox up, right? Yeah. So I know I wrote you poetry as well as who knows who else.
I probably have it somewhere because again, this will be a continuation, but I probably have it somewhere. I saved a lot of sentimental things from when I was younger, and it's in boxes. So,
well, I distinctly remember riding my bike to your house and dropping off some kind of letter or poem or something.
Yeah.
That's one of my main memories was. Yeah. I rode my bike.
So wait, so was that your first crush, would you say, or one of the first?
You were one of the big great, I would say the first one was Athena.
Oh my
That
gosh,
was
who was
that-
one of my friends in middle school? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was like, I mean, that's third, fourth grade or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, no, you were a distinct one in my mind.
Yeah.
And another person who was like, you remember Casey?
These again, all my friends at that time.
Yeah. So I think it was 8th grade. I liked, who knows? I liked Casey. And so I called like on maybe like a Friday or something. And I was like, hey, would you want to go out sometime? Don't know what that would have been, because in Norwood, New Jersey, like what the fuck is a date?
Yeah.
I guess, at 12, but
Friendlies
yeah, friendlies. Oh, which is
before it got
no
torn
more.
down. Yeah.
Into another fucking bank. So I called her and she's like, oh no, like I'm busy. I got to do something with my mom this weekend, maybe another time.
Yeah.
So the following Friday I called and was like, hey, would you like to go out? And then she was like, I got a thing. I'm doing this, that, and the other. So I could maybe when I'm more free. And then I called 5 Fridays in a row.
Wow.
Until the 5th one where she was just like, hey, I just don't like you like that. I see you more as like a friend. And I was like, oh, okay, no worries.
Yeah.
See you on Monday. And
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, why didn't she say that 5 weeks ago?
Totally. I mean, I think you could sum that up for really everything, right? Even dating in your 20s, 30s, whatever. Just like being honest, it really saves a lot of miscommunication, like unnecessary suffering on either person's part, So that's why for me, like, I always admire people being super honest. And I actually did something a few months ago where I reached out to like every almost lover that I have, or like even
An almost lover?
yeah, like
What's that?
from my point of view of like someone that I really was smitten with or infatuated with or attracted to for whatever reason. And then nothing ever really came of it, and so it was left in my head to be ambiguous because it was on their terms, or people that I'd been involved with. And for me, like, I'd always been someone that like chased connections, like even if they lived in Australia, which is a true story. And so, for me, like taking the passion I had as a child, I was always like, oh, well, there's an amazing connection here. Like, how could I not go after it? Kind of forgetting being pragmatic and, just practical about the matter. And so I was always on that receiving end of like being vulnerable of, usually for me, I would like write something or design something, like using my like creative skills. And then the more vulnerable I was, like the more they would just kind of like back away, And so I did this, activity where I reached out to every single one of those people, like a dozen people. And I was like, hey, like from your perspective, like what happened between us?
This sounds very familiar. It's a great premise.
But again, I think for me, like you need time to kind of like allow yourself to look back on it in hindsight for both parties, And so within like an hour or two, I was getting all these responses from like all of these people saying what happened from their point of view. And I realized it wasn't even about me.
Yeah.
Like it was literally about the context of the timing of their life. You know what I mean? And I just indirectly got affected by it. Whereas a lot of girls are like, he's not calling me or he's not, reciprocating in whatever way. What did I do wrong? Like you start to automatically kind of like, internalize it and like create this like doubt and then that goes on into like your next encounter and such. So yeah, I don't know how we got to that, but, do you remember why I was your crush? Like why you liked me?
I
Like
saw
in
you
your
were
middle
cute.
school brain. Okay.
Yeah,
That was it. It was as simple as that.
I mean, how deep is a crush at 12?
Well, I also think back then, like as someone who, again, growing up in a really strict household where like I couldn't date, I couldn't really watch TV for the most part. Like I got really comfortable being in my imagination. So that like allowed for me to really cultivate being like, a professional like fantasizer. Like I literally would fantasize like 80% of the time, up until college. And it usually was mostly like sexual scenarios, like with people, just with circumstances, with moments, like movie scenes. Only now is like being at the end of my 20s has it been like about me and like my dreams and like visions of the future and all of that. But I think back then, like as a middle schooler, you're projecting your idea of the person. You know what I mean? Because you don't really know that person.
100%,
like it's
yeah.
just so on that superficial level.
This is an
what you
angel
think they are.
and I'm in love with it. And then you
Right.
find out like probably not nearly that much of an angel.
Right.
Like you find out later.
Yeah.
Wait, so you were imagining sexual scenarios like in that time?
What do you mean?
So at that young of
Since
an
I was
age, you
young.
were, yeah?
Since I was young, yeah. Like romantic, it doesn't just have to be sexual. Like intimate, romantic, yeah.
So did you have crushes, like, when we were
Yeah.
at New Republic?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I think so much of it is about like cliques and just the dynamics, right? It's so political,
Okay.
right? So there were people that were known to be like top crushes, like across the board for most girls. You know what I mean? It was he
Very
was
popular
one.
one.
He was one. Matt was another one. Dean. I mean, he was hanging out with older people though. He was like next level. He looked older. He sounded older. Alex, I think, was one as well. I had crushes. Oh, Dominic.
I remember
he was
him.
one when he came. And they were all like sport guys that like were like looking back on it that were super vanilla.
Yeah.
And like congregated together and were like the jock popular kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. When was your first kiss?
Honestly, when I was like, I want to say like 2 or 3.
Whoa, okay.
not
Is
even kidding.
this going to be traumatic or is this going to be okay?
It was like maybe a little. I'm getting. So I went to this school called the European Learning Center, and this
Okay.
was before I went to Montessori school. Before I went to New Republic, which is where we went to school together.
Sure.
And I remember again, it was for kids where English was their second language. So,
Were you born out of the country or?
No, I was born here, but
Okay.
both my parents are like super foreign. So I
Yeah.
grew up foreign, and Serbian was my first language. And so I went to the school. It was super small. It was like in Fairlawn, and everyone else was from like another country, like Germany, like France, whatever. And there was this German guy, this like blonde, blue-eyed guy that.
Boy, we're talking 2 or 3 year old?
yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
I mean, honestly, maybe
Toddler,
it was like, maybe it was 3 or 4. I think we were like a tad older.
Sure.
Yeah. And so during recess, like, we got to go out and there was like, we play and all of that. And there was this tunnel, and it was like this metal tunnel that you can go into. And we started just like kissing, like in there, and it became a pattern. Like we did it a few times. That became our spot. Like just kissing. I don't even know if it was like tongue or anything like that.
I would hope not.
Yeah. And then, we got caught. And I remember, I don't remember a lot from when I was young. Like, again, I just blocked so much out, but I remember like the call when like, the administrators like called both of our parents and they were like, this is what they did. And but that was my first kiss. Super young.
Do you know like his name?
No. I want to say,
You don't have to like,
maybe
it's not,
Sasha.
not to say here,
maybe
but like,
Sasha.
okay.
But I would have no idea how to like,
you would
find
know,
him.
you would never be able to find this guy.
I mean, maybe like 98. It would take a while.
It would take some research. You'd have to be calling the
Extensive.
school, be like,
'Cause
do
I
you
don't
have
even
records
think,
from?
I don't even think the school's in existence anymore.
Oh,
it was a
gosh.
super small. This like Greek couple founded it. It was like in their mansion house. It was
This is a movie I would watch. Your search to find your first kiss from 3 years old.
And then I honestly don't remember like after that because I really wasn't allowed to explore those parts of myself in middle school or high school really.
Sure.
Even though I did date someone in high school, but it wasn't.
Ooh, what was the secret relationship like in high school? Because I didn't get to go to a normal high school.
Yeah,
so
it
like
was all
I never.
boys, right? All
It was
boys Catholic
co-ed,
school.
but it was
Wait,
it
what
was
was
just
it called again?
it's called Hyde.
Okay.
No one ever.
Wait, where is that? Is it in Bergen County?
It was in Northeast Connecticut. That
Okay.
campus is now closed, but that's where I was for 4 years.
Okay, so you really like went away.
Oh yeah, no, because I wanted to escape. Like I wanted to go to boarding school. I didn't want to go to that school, but I wanted to go to. I knew if I went to MVOT, like I maybe wouldn't have survived.
No, totally.
I don't know if you know this, but why would you know this? But so I found out like leading up to 8th grade graduation, I was told that apparently they were like, "Oh, we're proud of you. You really went through hell and you got through it." And
Who's they?
like faculty, like various faculty. And then one told me, it was like, cause hey, after Columbine, we had you on a red flag list. So like, good job not shooting up the school.
So crazy.
Not because I was ever violent, but it was, I got bullied that much that they were like, we should keep an eye on him. We could stop, we could,
Right,
interrupt and
not-
fix the problem, but
Right.
that's hard. Let's,
That's so wild.
yeah. So I got the hell out of there. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't.
No, good
do
on
that.
you for that. That's fair. Very fair.
So you dated secretly in high school. How long was?
I wouldn't say dated in the sense of like a bunch of people. I would say so here's the thing. If like, again, I wouldn't advise anyone to do this. But if your parents tell you that you can't do something, you try to find like loopholes around it. Right.
Right.
And so for me, it made sense to date someone that was in my, like after school, like team, like activity. So I was on the swim team.
Okay.
And so was he. So like we were already spending, you're like in bathing suits and, you know, all of that, but you're already spending so much time together, you know, like every single day. So it becomes easier to get away with that when your parents are looking at every single thing that you're doing, you know, so that's kind of how it started. Yeah. And then it got to the point where I'd be like, oh, I'm going out with my friends, and I would like go to his house, and like his parents were totally normal and fine with it and all of that. So I had like a secret relationship. But again, it wasn't, for me, like it wasn't serious, because it could never be serious. Like if I couldn't tell my parents about it and really had to compartmentalize those parts of my life, like I never saw it as like for real.
What was it like? What effect do you think that had on you and your sexuality?
Yeah. Well, looking back on it, like I hated it at the time. Like I was like, you guys are crazy. Like I hate you. Like no, like
all the other girls get to give hand jobs and buses. Why not me?
Exactly. And also it's hard when you're bicultural, like the household is, you know, European or Eastern European, and then you're going to school in America, and they're very opposing. So I already had a hard time specifically with my mom, you know, like just always butting heads. But this was more my dad. Like my mom was always pretty lax. Like we would talk about like when she started dating, and she was very laissez-faire about it. But my dad was just very like, he had 3 daughters. He was like, you were only focusing on school. I loved it because I really did very well in school. Yeah. You know, I was able to very much, like foster a sense of my own self identity, you know, create the foundation for that, and like just really focus on like reading, writing. Like, I mean, I'm a nerd. Like, I love that stuff, you know? So, and I also got to see with my friends, like how dangerous it can be to explore relationships when you're in that developmental time of adolescence.
When you go like boy crazy.
Right. And then you're in these relationships, and like they could be toxic, or, you know, who knows what love is, or, you know, whatever the intentions are for both parties. And then you could like not take your SATs because you didn't study in time, or it could really be this like very
which isn't even a possibility in your household. It's like no, that's just a thing that happens.
No, it's like you study like a year in advance and like every single weekend, like leading up to it. So honestly, I like that. Like I actually thanked my dad for creating such a strict environment like after the fact, because yeah, I mean, I'm glad I didn't get to like go after like I'm a very passionate person, and I'm super creative, and I'm like just again chasing after connections or ideas, and I think that would have been very dangerous for me as a teenager, you know. At the same time, I think we're all sexual beings, you know. We live in such a puritanical country, but still. But I remember one of my earliest memories, again, it's very salient because I don't remember a lot from this time. So the fact that I do is kind of wild. But I remember as a kid, like, you know, at that point where you start realizing like, he's a boy, I'm a girl, you know, like you start kind of being more aware. And so I remember at some point I brushed up against like the corner of a table, and in my, you know, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever head, I was like, oh, this feels good. You know? And so I started making a habit of it, like literally just brushing up against corners of tables, not like everywhere, but like, you know, knowing enough that it should be in private or whatever. Probably to the point of orgasm, but not knowing what it is. I didn't have like, you know, words for these things. I wasn't really rationalizing what was actually happening. I was just like, oh, table, me, like coming together. This feels good, you know? Yeah. And then I remember my mom walking in at one time when I was doing this, and just like, shame and like guilt and like, what are you doing? And like, you should never do that. And like,
she did that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
And, I don't really remember a lot, but those are the main emotions that I remember from that. And so from then on, like, even though, you know, I didn't lose my virginity until after high school, this relationship with porn started happening, where that became my like kind of secret world of like pleasure, even though I couldn't do it with someone else or like whatever. So yeah. It was like a secret world for me, and part of like a rebellion. I went, again, we weren't really allowed to watch TV. So I remember it was like late at night, like past midnight. And I went down to the basement and put on the TV, you know, being like, oh, this is like, you know, rebellion. And then
Cinemax?
Yeah, it was on one of those, and it was soft core, but like it was like a storyline with like a plot. And then there were these scenes where they would be naked. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
I remember it was like a woman, like a working woman. And she was like she was like a reporter. It was like in this broadcasting room and she like deleted the tapes. And then this other guy was in there and then they started like hooking up and then it was accidentally recorded. And then someone else found out that was like a boss or higher up. But yeah, that was like the beginning of that path. And then I think I started exploring on the computer and all of those things. And yeah, it was always something that I did in my room. And again, I got a thrill out of it because I was, and also like, I always felt like my parents thought of it as like bad, like sex is bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like certain religions there, you know, whatever, the puritanical kind of paradigm. So for me, I was like, how could it be bad if I'm feeling good from it? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That's
to me,
what makes
you
it
know?
bad. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. And so you don't feel like you got stunted sexually from like your parents' rules or when your mom, you know, yelled at you or whatever?
Yeah. That's a great question. The way that I see it is like, it felt at the time that like everyone else was participating in this thing called life and that I was in this little bubble, you know, cause my parents, like, my dad specifically was just so overprotective of us. And I remember I went to Burning Man last year and, one of my campmates who's like a medium and, she kind of started channeling my dad and she was like, yeah, he had to be really overprotective with you because you were such like an open and nice, like welcoming person. Like I remember as a kid, I would like run after kids in the playground, you know, and they would always take advantage of me, like not in a sexual way, but, you know, just like fucking with me, you know, and my dad would see this and he would say like, Yelena, like you're too nice. Like it's beautiful and it's pure, but like that's not how the world works. And I remember always finding myself like in middle school was like the death of me, like coming from Montessori and private school to like all of a sudden, you know, it's like, all these cliques and there's 30 kids in a class and people are running and cursing and like
You were
I never
with the
heard those
plebeians
things.
in public school.
Yeah, with the muggles. Yeah, it was, yeah. And I just kept finding myself in these positions that I didn't want to be in because I was so overly compliant and such. But she was like, yeah, your dad kind of had to protect you during that really like vulnerable time of being very like as a teenage girl, like you're so impressionable, you know? And that made a lot of sense to me. I don't know if I was stunted. I think I found my way.
Yeah.
Like even if it was in solitude, and independently, I think that was probably the best for me. I don't know. I think I like that I was a virgin until after I graduated high school.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So did you find that you like, there was no real holding back when you got to college and out of college? Like you felt like you could explore and there was no, cause some people like if their mom walks in or dad walks in, like yells at you for like say masturbating, like for some people that just causes a block where either they don't masturbate or like they can't orgasm because it's all, they're being yelled at. It doesn't sound like you really had that. It just sounds like it was all a delay where it was like, fine, I'll wait, but it doesn't seem like you got held back by it.
No, I just thought they were crazy because it's so primal. You know what I mean? And I was always so blown away, even like in a school setting, like how much people aren't honest and like living in their truths. Like there's so much BS and red tape and all of that in like any moment of our day-to-day lives. So for me, I was like, this is a beautiful thing. Like it should never be seen as anything but that, you know, in its purest form. So I just kind of like compartmentalized what they thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you are an adult and out in the world and so I don't know like fucking anything about you cause we haven't actually seen each other in like 16 years. I'm like who are you? What? Cause I first like you became conscious in my brain when I saw like Lila posting like her confetti shots with you and I was like how did you, so I was like wait, how, Yelena, like that's a person, and then I was like how in the world is she intersecting with this world that like I'm in, which is I don't know if you like I don't know if you go to play parties or not, but since you know like, that's that area. I'm like, what's her intersection here? Like, how did you get connected with her? Like, what's your deal?
I think through this project, again, I've been doing it for 4 years. So, it's been like this ripple effect of there always being like a degree of connection between everyone, you know? So like me and her probably have a lot of friends in common. Most people that come here, I know through someone. My network is pretty big, you know? But with that said, I don't really have a social life. You know, it's like the way that I meet people is through the Confetti Project.
Well, how'd you meet her in particular? Like, what was?
I met her when she first came.
No, but like, I mean, like, how did she come here?
That might be a better question for her. I'm not really sure. I think it was probably from a friend of mine. But again, like, people do this and then they post their photos, and then usually what happens is other people see it, and then they're part of this like Sparkle tribe of people that are like, that's amazing, like I need to, you know, and then they end up coming. So like it's not uncommon when people come in here, they see people they know on the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's not like you and Lila are tight necessarily. Like, it's not like y'all are hanging. Okay. Cause I thought when I saw that connection, I saw those pictures, I thought maybe you were like part of the, I don't know, hacienda, whatever scene or anything like that. So that's not even your world.
I would say my worlds are like the Confetti Project and commuting. I would say those are most of my worlds. Commuting back and forth from New Jersey to New York.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are you still living back there? Or?
Not from where we're from, but in Cliffside Park.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
right by the GW Bridge. So for me, like, it's coming. I'm 29 now, and so I'm really kind of looking at my 20s. Like, it's this beautiful kind of retrospection of it. Of like, I started this when I was 25.
Okay.
And so many milestones have happened within it, from like my dad dying to my sister having cancer to people that have done this that aren't around anymore. Like, again, the what do I say? It's like the darkness behind the sparkle, you know? And so really with that, it's like, I've been just trying to fight to keep this alive and just to really, cause I'm full time with this now. And so
Congrats.
thank you. I know it's wild. But I haven't really had time to like have a social life, to be honest.
So you don't
and
date?
to even, no.
Wow.
It's funny. It goes from like, you know, being accidentally celibate, right? Because my parents were like, you can't date until high school or until after high school. And then going to college, like naturally rebelling, like in every way, like in every, like drinking, like just like not really going to class. I mean,
What was the haircut? What was the rebellious haircut?
it probably wasn't cutting my hair, to be honest. I mean, it's still the same, but, and so I got my nose pierced. That was one thing. That was like the rebellion. And then I started having like sex all the time. And me and my friends at the time called it lacrostitutes, where like you would just exclusively date lacrosse players.
I had a high school teacher who called herself a lacrostitute, which is all sorts of weird to hear when you're 14.
It's super weird because like if you play D1 lacrosse in college, like you don't really go anywhere from that. Like it's not like you go to the NBA or like, you know, it's just, okay, I mean, there's a professional, you know, league and stuff, but it's not like a commercialized sport. You know?
No, those guys have day jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so two of my best friends just happened to be lacrosse players, these two girls. And so we just happened to be like, our dorm rooms were close to them. Like that became our first kind of community of people, you know, of
Did you
guys.
start referring to people you bang not by name, but by position?
No.
They're like, oh no, I got the midi. Oh yeah.
I could have, but, and then, you know, and then a lot of that, you know, went from not having sex to like having sex, usually drunk or blacked out, you know, and that always creates more of a complex scenario, you know? And then dating a lacrosse player for like a year. And that was like probably one of like the most, like the only relationship I've ever really had, like to that degree where we were like legitimate couple.
Legitimate couple, but you still went to Australia for somebody?
No, that happened later on. I didn't actually go, but I would have. Again, that
okay.
person was like, we don't live in the same city. Like, this isn't going to work.
He was being like rational. You'd be like, no, we can make it happen.
Totally. So then I went like no sex to like having a lot of sex to having a boyfriend, my first boyfriend. And then, yeah, since then, like being on and off celibate, like sometimes accidentally, sometimes not. But yeah, I tell my friends, I'm like, I just happen to not, you know, get pregnant or have to think about being on the pill or any contraceptives because I've just like abstained from it. Because I've just like went this artistic route and like, for me, both like I needed my independence as a 20-something-year-old to really like for my creativity to really like be cultivated as part of my central identity. And it didn't, it's not that I like didn't have opportunities or I couldn't have gone after things, but, for most of it, I ultimately subconsciously made the decision that like I didn't want to have a partner. Even though I was running after connections and such, it just happened to be like they didn't continue them. So it kind of made the decision for me. Looking back on it, I'm super stoked about it.
But in between, like, you know, just because you don't have a partner doesn't mean you can't be casually having sex or having.
I don't know for me that I can.
Gotcha.
I think for me, I've noticed the times that I've had sex, it's so like my emotions are so correlated to it. And then, you know, like those times when like guys would reject me or like what I felt was like rejection, like I would go down like a mental like melancholy. Like I would be so depressed, you know? So something happens within me when I have sex with someone that I start getting like attached to them.
Okay.
For most of my 20s. I think that's started to shift now.
Fingers crossed for you. No.
I know, right? But I also think I'm just the type of person that like is just monogamous, you know, and is like a relationship type of person. So I wouldn't be surprised if like the next relationship I'm in will be the father of my first child, you know? Yeah.
Interesting. So you're, so is there an ideal scenario where you're able to blend this artistic life and, I mean, a dating life, let alone a social life?
When I'm financially stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I live in the city.
Sure.
It's hard. It's super hard. It's like I'm, you know, thinking out, it takes 2 hours each way to get here. So that's 4 hours a day commuting. So when I'm in New Jersey, I'm like,
You don't
grandma
drive in,
mode.
you take the bus.
On the weekends I do. But I like just taking the bus because it's like at the front of my building and you get to kind of like relinquish control and like read and such. But like I'm constantly on the go. It's very hard to be spontaneous when you're a commuter. You know, it's like you're in the city, but you're kind of an outsider and you have like your bag with you and you have to, it's not even a matter of commuting. It's like your whole life has to be shaped around like
A
the
bus
bus
schedule, yeah.
yeah, and like getting on the subway at a certain point to make the bus, like those are the worst times, like in transit times. So yeah, I mean, I was in LA last month and I was there for 3 weeks and I was staying with someone and it was one of those things where like I was like, this is an experiment, like we're either gonna be partners or we're not.
Oh, so this is a potential person.
Yeah, this was recent, and I only lasted 5 days.
What happened? Well, let's start with how are you connected to this person? Like, how are you meeting
Yeah.
this person
Yeah.
that it gets to this place?
So I don't use like online dating or anything like that. Like and also my job, like I get paid to like connect with people, you know? So it's hard. Like even if I don't have a social life per se, or a lot of it, like I'm still getting that human connection, you know? And I'm still able to ask people like really deep, uncomfortable questions, you know? All the things I love to do anyway. And so, usually how I meet people is like, again, one of the perks of being a commuter is like statistically you're crossing paths with so many people, you know? And I just love organic, like in real life, encounters, you know? So that's what happened in LA. I was like renting some photo gear and this guy was like renting it to me and he was like smitten with me. Like I could just tell. And I remember at the time thinking like, you know, I was so tired and I remember like my face was breaking out. My skin is like my ultimate stress response. So I was like, why is he talking to me? Like I have acne. Like I remember thinking that. I felt very, probably the most unattractive that I've ever felt. And he was just talking and the first thing he said was like, I'm sorry, like I haven't had human interaction for 3 days. I've been working on a script. And I was like, oh my God, like I totally understand. Like here was another artist that like really, kind of isolated himself, you know, for the pursuit of his artistic ambition, you know? And so just right off the bat, I was like, we're part of the same, you know, we're going through the same thing, you know? And then we like hung out once. We had this like amazing like 9-hour date. And then after that, we like talked like every single day, like across both coasts. When I was here in New York,
Those
he was in
9-hour
LA.
dates are dangerous.
I know. Seriously. That happened to me at Burning Man once too. Again, learning lessons all around. But, and so we started fostering like this emotional connection, talking every single day, like on the phone. Again, great time, like when I would be commuting to like call him up and I think in hindsight, like we were perfect for each other in the sense where we were supporting one another. Like he was about to make his first feature film. Like I was, you know, going on with what I was doing and doing all these things with Confetti Project. And so, it was a great like creative, like respect and also just like camaraderie. And so he was super communicative and vulnerable, which was very new for me because like I'm always the one that's like that, you know, but he would be like, you know, I envision you having my children or, you know, just these things.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just these things. And like
That's not scary to hear?
it's
One date?
it's not scary to hear because like I love vulnerability and I would never tell someone like you're being too vulnerable.
Yeah, but
that
there's a
you're
difference
being
between
too much.
vulnerability and like tact or like red flag warning signs or there's that new term people like to say, love bombing.
Love bombing.
Yeah, like when you get, my last ex like sent me like 5 articles on love bombing because they were accusing me of doing such. And then
Yeah.
I was like, None of these are things that I do.
What is it?
It's basically the idea of like when you're like you're basically overdoing it very early, trying to get this person in like very large gestures,
Right.
saying I love you insanely too quick, making constant communication, making future plans maybe after like a second date.
Yeah.
You know, if someone were to say like we should go to Mexico in August and you just met in February and you've been on 3 dates, like
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Totally.
It was actually funny because one of the articles about love bombing that my ex sent me during the relationship was written by a woman I hooked up with several years prior, and I was like, oh boy, like this is weird.
It's a small world.
I felt like Lakin was just telling me to my face why I suck. I was like, okay.
But just like change the title.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
like,
this is not
yeah.
about Billy, but
It's totally about Billy. Yeah, no.
It wasn't
someone
scary.
saying after only going on one date, like
Yeah.
I imagine you having my children. To a lot of people would be not like it's just like a red flag for some people, as if like
Right.
maybe there wasn't a filter because. And I'm Mr. Vulnerable,
Yeah.
but I'm learning how to have a filter so I can be like somewhat appropriate.
right. I think the reason why it didn't scare me was because not to that degree, like my big gestures are like creative works. Like I remember many times, even with that Australian guy, like I wrote things I've learned from you, and they would be like these really like one-liner witty things, from like really sexual to just, you know, life kind of epiphanies, and I would pair them with like a confetti photo and make it into a zine. Like that's my version of like a big gesture,
Yeah.
you know? But because I was always that person, and I was on the receiving end of like someone, you know, being scared and like seeing that as a red flag, or like, you know, being like it's not good timing, or, you know, whatever practical reasons are the reason for that. I understood. Like I was like, okay, like he's definitely getting carried away. And I told him, I was like, you know, stay in the moment with me. Like I would say certain things, and we even
What are
came
you,
up
a
with-
movie character? Just hold the hand and be like, stay in the moment with me. Let's not talk about
I mean,
future. Let's
dude,
stay right here and right now.
I mean, I'm a visual storyteller. He's a director, writer, you know, so we're both super, yes, we love a good story for sure. And so I think that's why I had that empathy, like to not like be scared. But it kept being this continuing kind of thread of like, you know, me being like, okay, like whatever you want to say. Cause, you know, again, we've heard those interviews, right? Like say you're watching an interview with like a celebrity or like someone that's notorious, and, you know, the guy asks like, how did you and your wife meet? Or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, there are many like anecdotes that are like, well, I walked into this room and, you know, I saw her from across the room, and, you know, the guy next to me, I was like, I'm going to marry her. Like you've heard variations of that, you know?
Right.
And so I was like, this might be it. Like maybe, you know? But I kept having to tell him like, whatever you want to say, like cut it in 50%. Like say it half the time, because you could think those things. Like we all have these intuitive thoughts and all of that, but like, there's a strategy to when you say them. Like again, timing is everything, you know?
Yeah.
And so anyway, the reason why I only lasted 5 days was because, I mean, he had a small apartment, and it's very intimate when you're sharing a space with someone, just like when you're traveling with someone for the first time. Also, I went there to finish my book. You know, he was like testing his feature film, and we both really, did not realize how we needed our own space. You know, it's like when I'm writing about like this book and revisiting when my dad was dying and, you know, really beautiful and painful parts of my life, it's like, I need to be in a cave. I need to isolate myself. I need to like listen to my voicemails from my dad. I need to like be in a place where I can be like super, super vulnerable. And it usually ends up with like sobbing on the floor and then feeling this beauty within the suffering and all of that. And his space, like I couldn't do that, you know? And long story short, it just ended up being this thing where like he felt out like I was judging him, which I probably was. And then there was like this resentment and tension that was built up, you know? And
How
so
long
yeah,
did
then
you
I
plan
left.
this stay?
3 weeks.
And then so after 5 days, you're like, I'm gonna go get an Airbnb, crash at a friend's house, like
Yeah, it was an expensive mistake. It was like
an expensive mistake.
yeah, it was
That's
like
the title of the
$2,000
chapter.
Yeah, it was like a $2,000, $2,500. Yeah, because the thing is like it wasn't like I noticed it not working, and then I was like, okay, let me wait until Wednesday so I can have 2 weeks in an Airbnb. Like it became very, and really
That's when the discount kicks in. You gotta be smart about these things.
versus like 2.5 weeks.
Sure,
like
yeah.
that to me felt different financially. He was offering a space to help me financially, you know? And so I remember like waking up on Sunday and at this point, you know, like I had a stomach ache for 12 hours and I was getting like rashes in my skin, and I was just about to start my cycle, which is like a very vulnerable time, you know, where you're in pain as a woman. And I was like, I can't be here. Like, I just like can't be here. Like, everything was telling me like, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Like, if my dad was in my head at that point, he would be like, go, like, get a hotel room. And so then I was like, I'm going to get an Airbnb. And again, we were very much on the same terms. Like, he was like, yeah. And I was like, I think we should just be friends. And he was like, yeah. Really, I think we ruined any potential of it because of being in such close parameters with each other so early on. You know, it's like you skip like 20 steps, you know, getting to the point of like cohabitating. And so, yeah. And then I voiced that I don't want to see him for the rest of the trip. And he was like, you know, you don't have to say that. And I was like, I'm saying a boundary. Like, it's not a matter that I don't like you. From the very beginning, we were like, we will always have respect for one another and be fans of each other as like artists, you know, and humans. But, yeah, we haven't spoken since.
I'm only just now starting to like understand or respect like my relationship with like my creativity and my career, where I realize like, so I broke something off like about a month ago with someone who I was like seeing casually for a few months. But
what does casually mean? This is something I'm like, what are the kids doing these days? Like, how do you define these terms? Because I'm just so removed from everything.
I told her up front just the idea of like this is one of my things with like something like a Tinder when people say like no hookups. So like, do you mean no one night stands or no hooking up? Because they're very different things. I like hooking up. I don't like one night stands. Right.
So casual in this scenario are you seeing other people or are you exclusive?
Well, so I'm just a non-monogamous person, so I just won't be. I haven't been exclusive since Arissa.
Okay.
I think casually dating is just like we spend time, like we go on dates before we're fucking. And then there's people like you just hook up with where it's like maybe on a rare occasion we go out and do something, but it's usually like drinks and fucking. And for me, dating seriously is when I'm feeling all the tingles and jingles and I'm like, oh, this is a person I think about all the time. And I didn't feel that way for her. I could tell she definitely felt that way towards me. But that also I was like, I don't have time. Like I'm doing so much right now. I'm probably doing more right now career wise than I think I ever have.
Awesome.
And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to give you even the attention. Like one, I can't give you the emotions you probably would prefer. I feel I don't even know if I can give you the time and attention because I got to take care of my main baby right now. I got, if you separate comedy with the podcast, now I've got two babies I got to take care of. It's just a triad of creativity, relationship or whatever. And,
no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think,
like now I know I like dating. I love dating and I'm like, I can't date right now. Right. Like I can hook up with some people. I can have some fun, but like I know I can't give what I would like to give when I'm in a relationship right now. And that's a very new feeling for me because I normally crave like the acceptance of others or attention or like chasing. Right. And I'm like, I think now finally finding my foundation where women aren't at the bottom of it, holding everything up. And I'm like, learn how to reorient what dating is for me, what, sexuality is for me and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's new, it's different. I'm here, but by hearing you speak, I feel like I'm where you were, a way while ago and hearing kind of like the tail end of it.
No, but I'm right there with you because through all of this with this guy, I realized like most of my 20s, like the victim part of myself, like the most insecure story that I believe about myself is that I'm not worthy of long-term love, longevity, because I haven't really dated in my 20s, and here it's hard. It's like, I don't really compare. I know I'm like off the grid, like I'm rogue, like I'm an artist, I'm bohemian, whatever. But, seeing everyone in relationships or getting married or starting families or all of that are like my same age, I start to think like, oh, why am I only worthy of these like amazing 9-hour dates, and nothing more,
And I'm thinking, why am I only good enough for sex? Why am I not good enough to be the boyfriend?
Right.
Totally.
And so I always had that insecurity, like no matter what, but my creativity helped me. My creativity made me feel less lonely or whatever, and so with this guy, he was this thing that came right at me. And I remember I was like, this is very like woohoo, but I was in Venice in LA and I was at this full moon circle, like at a yoga studio. And they were saying like, write down, we were going to go into Mercury retrograde for the month. This was in March. So they were like,
Mercury seems to always be in retrograde.
Much, yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
But this was like in a more extended extended one. And so she was like practicing no, like only focus on 3 things this month, you know? And then you had to write down, it was like a journaling exercise of like the 3 things. And at the end of it, for me, it was like being in a long-term partnership. You know, it's like the last time I was in one was in the beginning of my 20s. Like I'm such a different person. I mean, losing my dad when I was 26, like I went from 26 to like 40, like in the sense, and also smoking a lot of weed, like you just get so meta and existential about your life, you know? And so it'd be cool to see like, what would it be like to be in a relationship now, you know, me in this form at this age at 29. And so, with this experience with this guy, I realized like, wow, this whole time I was like feeling bad about myself that I haven't dated, but actually, what would it look like? Like, what would a relationship that I would want to be in actually look like? Like, what would I bring to the table? And I got a little snippet of it being in such close quarters with this person that I was like, wow, relationships, like it's so easy to like glamorize them, right? And romanticize them, but they take so much work.
You're
Like,
going to be the
it's
chick
so
who's like, I
much
want my
work.
own bed. Like when you get married or with a long-term partner, whatever, you're going to be like, we're still going to have separate bedrooms. I feel like that's going to be your vibe. Or
Wait, you know what's so funny that you say that is because when I was with this kid, he
This
had
kid.
a full size bed, and I don't like it when people touch me when I'm sleeping because I run so hot that
Okay.
like if someone is touching me, like I just start to overheat and I feel like I can't relax and I can't sleep. And so I was having these sleepless nights like in his space, like in, you know, and I'm like, holy fuck, like 3 weeks
and
of
he
this.
thinks he's being so cute and charming. And
Well,
be
no,
like,
we talked about this
Okay.
before, and you know, it was the scenario where he was like, "Yeah, like we'll cuddle before bed, and then you'll be like, yeah, like then you'll tell me like, okay, now it's time to go to our separate corners and sleep." You know, so, but I just remember feeling that way, and then he mentioned that he had an air mattress, and so literally like the last few days of being there, I would have like a bougie queen, amazing air mattress next to his full size bed, and I was like, this is fucked up. Like this is so. Like, wow, like fast forwarding like 20, 30 years from now or something, right? Of like, but yeah, no, I would like to think that we would have a king size bed.
Okay.
And we would just we would be able to meet in the middle, and then we would both have, you know, our independent spaces. So after this scenario, I was like, wait, this whole time I thought I wanted to be in a relationship. I don't want to be in a relationship right now. Like my relationship is like creating the foundation for what I've been working on for the past 4 years. You know, the Confetti Project, it's like, this is my baby. This is my first brainchild. And it's like, I don't really see myself being in a relationship and being able to give and be the person that I want to be. It's like in that scenario, I felt super powerless. I was like poor living in this guy's place. And like, how many people are in that scenario in New York City alone where like they've broken up, but they have to be in the same apartment with the other person. And it's really torturous, you know, in the process of healing. And so I was like, wow, like if I had more money, like obviously money doesn't, you know, like bring all the happiness in your life, but like I just felt like this is not the version that I want to give someone. It's like I want to be on my own 2 feet. I want to be independent. I want to be financially abundant to then be able to attract a long-term relationship or find my equivalent or whatever. So I had that epiphany as well. It's been a really big reframe from being like, oh, I'm a victim, like I suck, I'm not desirable, to like, oh wow, like I'm amazing. I always knew I was amazing, but like I'm awesome. But now being like,
I was an
doing
early
this on my
adopter
own
of Yellen
terms.
is amazing, by the way.
In my awkward stage. Yeah. So now it's really empowering.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel empowered?
I don't feel empowered. I'm trying to first just get comfortable because like my paradigm is I was raised to feel like I am worthless and not someone who like is attractive or anything like that.
Even within your
and to be a
family?
loser.
Because I know
Well,
it was just you and your dad as like the guys in the family, right?
Yeah.
And then all women.
everyone in my family is attractive and or super sociable. Like my dad, everyone loves my dad.
Yeah.
My sisters are who they are. Even my mom, people are like, oh my God, your mom's like 50, whatever. And she's gorgeous, right? Everyone was varsity sports, lots of friends, super popular. And then there was me.
Yeah.
So I never even fit in there.
Yeah.
And so when I got to college and out of college, then there's this new world where like I am desirable and I basically kind of fucked my way through my 20s. And now I'm in this place where like, I'm just getting comfortable where all I wanted for so long was someone to love me. I had a couple of those. And now I'm like, I really just want to kick ass at these things that I'm doing and making. And there's other things I want to make. And if I had to commit like 1 to 2 days a week for one person, that's more than just like, let's have some fun after drinks. I don't think I could. I don't think my first of 3 or 4 books, I don't think that one gets written if I have that relationship. I don't think I ever start writing a script or like have the time to, take a screenwriting class. I don't think any of these things can happen if I'm in a long, that's the type of relationship that I like to be in. Like, because I don't want to be a lesser version of what I like to give. So so I don't know if I feel empowered yet, but I am starting to get comfortable with just even the idea of this. And that's pretty cool. Yelena, this was great. Nice seeing you after 16 years.
You as well. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Confetti Project?
Yeah, it's a photography series that profiles amazing humans doused in like pounds of confetti, exploring what they celebrate in their life. So before I take any photo, I ask the person, even when they know I'm going to ask it, even when they're paying me, like asking someone, what do you celebrate in your life right now? Like if you had to check in with yourself and really think about like what's important to me. Like, what do I stand for? What am I inspired by? Everyone stops in their tracks. It's really wild. And then you mix it with like a lot of confetti, which a lot of people haven't experienced that sensation. It becomes this like therapy session. This transformation happens where the first time someone throws confetti, it's like all of their anxiety, stress, like whatever circumstances are happening in their life is like checked out the door, and they're able to drop in and just be so present, even if it's for like a split second. So that's pretty much the goal of it. I've coined it this celebration therapy. Yeah. Just because it's like the confetti seduces people in, and, it becomes part of this whole like narrative of like, it's super Instagrammable and it's really pretty and like life is so much fun. Like this whole thing of like really putting a hierarchy on like, I should be happy all the time. But then when you come in and experience it, and it's like deep, uncomfortable questions, and then confetti, and then a gallery of other humans, that all look different, that are all just so in the moment, present in the moment. Those people know that it's way more meaningful than that. So I'm at this like inflection point with it where I'm saying no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I'm not in the financial position to, where, it's hard, like as an artist, I don't know, tell me if you can empathize. You're so grateful to be able to do what you love. That's not the case for everyone.
Thank you, patrons listening.
That you can, allow that to, you can become a participant in you devaluing yourself. Because when someone comes to you and they're like, can you do this? And you're like, oh my God, yes, totally. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And then you're realizing like, wow, like this is not aligned with my integrity, or they're paying me half as much that I'm worth, or really like the time and everything that goes into creating what I'm creating. So I'm at this inflection point of like really breaking the mold of like, oh, this is way more than just Instagram. This is like changing people's lives and perceptions. And, there are people around that aren't here anymore. And like, I've literally been in the position where, I've given their grieving family and friends, like these photos of their loved ones, like so in the moment, like, and telling what they celebrate, like the essence of who they were at that given moment in time. So yeah, it's cool. I just wrapped up, a mental health series, which is like my first internal campaign. And it's 10 people and it's debuting next week. And it is like insane. It's probably the thing that I'm the most proud of, where, talking from, reintegrating into your life after beating cancer, to having Marfan syndrome, to having an eating disorder for 20 years that you kept secret, to being like finding out that you have bipolar disorder. It's
can't imagine keeping an eating disorder secret. I won't shut up about mine. Sorry.
Different strokes, different ways of coping.
Where can people find you and find this project?
Yeah, so the website's theconfettiproject.com, and then the Instagram is the same with underscores between each word. And yeah, it's on Facebook as well.
Fantastic. Yelena, thanks so much for chatting with me. And this was great.
Billy.
And why don't you say goodbye to everybody?
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening, and thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Definitely go check out the Confetti Project on the Instagram. It's a very joyful page. It's very joyful and diverse. And in times like these, sometimes it's nice to have very fun, positive, upbeat distractions. Of course, you should be following me on the social media. I'm on Twitter at @BillyPresida, and I'm on Instagram at BillyIsPresida. Don't ask about the story of why it's at BillyIsPresida. I'm not happy about it either, but that was the easiest thing I could get. If you want to shoot me an email with your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your titty pictures, whatever, send it on over to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Don't forget that the Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by HotMovies.com, a pay-per-minute porn site that makes it both an ethical and affordable way to hashtag pay for some of your porn. do me a solid and go give it a try. Sign up for the free trial and use promo code MANWHORE for 20 extra minutes. Go to hotmovies.com, sign up today with promo code MANWHORE. Last but certainly not least, you all know that the best way to show your support for the Man Whore podcast is to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Black Lives Matter. Stay slutty.